Welcome to the Imposter Syndrome Club. My name is Jessamy G. I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, Miss Alice Edie. Hi, Alice.
Hello, happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas. It's in that, it's that weird no man's land between Christmas and New Year's at the moment. So this episode will come out just after New Year's, but this is when we're recording it because of, stuff, plans, travel and things. But it's such a weird, limbo time of year where you're so fucking tired but feel like you should be doing things, like you should be making the most of holidays, or I don't know. I tried to cancel on this recording today because I was like, I have nothing. I have nothing.
And I didn't allow for it to happen, not based on optimism. But I'm like, well, tomorrow could be worse.
Yeah.
We're doing it today because tomorrow it's just, who knows?
Who knows? It's one of those interesting things. I was thinking about that, what is, when you do something like this that's in partnership with someone else, what's the worst way of letting them down? So obviously cancelling is letting someone down, but also if you're just not able to do the job properly, is that worse?
I think the second one is worse.
Yeah.
Because it would be
well, fuck.
No, well, obviously there's a million contingencies and nuances, but I think it would be imagine having sex with someone who's just having sex because they don't want to hurt your feelings.
Whoa.
Right? No one wants. That's the worst case scenario. This is not a pity fuck. I'm sure if you were really not into it, you would have said that, right? You were just I'm on the fence.
Well, look, it's going really well so far. This is not a pity fuck.
But I said it with conviction, but inside my heart there was a question mark.
Right? You have my full consent at all times.
Thank you.
Always into it.
Right back at you. Right back at you. No, I think I agree. And I felt when I was reading your messages, rightly or wrongly, I was very much picking up that post-Christmas. It's just a weird time. I've been feeling, and I said it to you when I arrived downstairs, but I feel 2 sentences away from crying all the time. And I can't pinpoint anything. It's just big feelings. I think it's big feelings. I think it's being tired. I think it's the end of the year. And I also think it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's fine. And it's also obviously incredibly common. Everyone that you speak to at this time of year seems to be feeling roughly the same. Yeah. I think it's, and everyone's got their own version of Christmas stresses. Or even if it's not stressful, it's still just a lot of output of energy.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly, I think, what I'm trying to get at with big feelings, because I'm actually very happy as well.
Yeah, yeah.
You wouldn't know. But it's just, I think it's just big.
Yeah.
Holding big stuff.
Yeah, lots of heightened, yeah.
And it's a time of year where you're reflecting on stuff and planning stuff, and I think that factors into it for me as well. It's a bit like a birthday.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Do you have any New Year's traditions? Are you a New Year's resolution type of gal? I think I know the answer to this question, but
I mean, yeah, I am. I mean, I love a list, and I'm a sucker for anything like that. I don't fully know what they are yet this year, but I think I'm circling something along the lines of just been noticing how much more joy and freedom there has been in the last year of my life, but also how much that scares me. And I'm going to try just keep leaning into that more and allowing things to change. And yeah, do you have any 2023?
No, not yet. And I also resolutions as such is not really something that I subscribe to, but definitely more broadly sort of themes or stuff that I want to focus on a bit more or explore, or just use as a very, very loosely held broad guiding force for the year. If there's a question around should I do this thing or not, to just sort of look back at well, what was that, general theme, or there's general themes, sort of values, I guess, in a way. and let that potentially sort of guide decision making at some points in time. But I think in terms of the I'm going to lose 5 kilos, or I'm going to go to I don't know, whatever the things are, like those sort of like resolutions. I don't does that work for anyone
I'm
ever?
going to finally start smoking.
Yes.
Achievablegoals.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we've all been maybe burnt with those in the past as well. Like I feel like I feel like New Year's resolutions go through phases of being very in vogue or very out of vogue. And currently I feel like everyone's big on the fact that they don't work and it's all bullshit and made up, which is true. But I think there is something about just reflecting on what you want. Like it is good to have a general ballpark of where you want to head.
Yeah, I think so. And part of it's looking backwards and part of it's looking forwards. Yeah, that is, I think we might have spoken about this a little bit last time, but that is a nice thing about this time of year. Like, of course, it's an arbitrary date. It doesn't actually mean anything, but it's, I think for me anyway, it's useful to use it as an opportunity to reflect on what you did and didn't enjoy about the past year and what you do and don't want to take with you into the following year and that sort of thing.
What are your themes?
They're in development at the moment, but there's sort of 2 that are floating around in there. One is around visibility and one is around space. Not as in like astronaut Elon Musk starting a space. Can you imagine? I just turn up on New Year's Day like in a helmet, ready to go. Like, this is my theme for the year. Like in primary school, you would have a theme for a term and it'd be like dinosaurs,
volcanoes. You know what? Like it's not fully inconceivable to me. Like I would be there for that journey as well. Just one woman in the Australian, like in the outer Melbourne suburbs, dream of going to space.
Instead, I just like put those glow in the dark stars on my bedroom ceiling. Make the mobiles, with all the planets in them. Learn that my very earnest mother just showed us 9 planets.
Oh, that was your, what do you call it? Mnemonic.
Yeah. There were a few different ones.
Mary Venning eats jam sandwiches under North Pier. Was our one.
That's so much more convoluted. Say that again. Are they just completely separate words?
Just for anyone who, like, this is to remember the planets if we haven't made that, like, entirely clear. But, yeah, Mary Venning eats jam sandwiches under North Pier. Except I guess now you don't need the P for Pluto, so it would just be under North. What was your one?
My very earnest mother just showed us 9 planets.
Right, yours is better.
Yeah. I'm like trying to remember what I'm like, someone had a jam sandwich on a pier.
Also, because her name is Mary Venning and she's not a real person, it involves you remembering names that aren't even the fucking planets in order to remember the planet.
But look, it worked, right? You remember it.
I remember it, certainly.
Yeah, Mary Venning. Anyway, so not that kind of space.
Okay.
Now that we've cleared that up.
Got it.
I think I've said this a few times, and I know it was something that came up when I was reflecting on stuff last year as well, is when someone asks, how are you? I don't want the answer to be busy.
Yeah.
And that's partially like a process of how I set up work stuff, and it's partially a mindset thing. Like I could potentially be doing the same amount of work. I remember my friend Tim said this to me a little while ago. He's like, well, busy is kind of more a mindset. I mean, to a certain point, right? Obviously, you will just go through times that are busier than other times. That's a thing that happens. But like busy is more of a feeling than it is, and you know what I mean? An actual
Yeah, that's interesting
thing.
Because you're always doing something. Like on a cellular level, your cells are always moving energy molecules in and out and metabolizing things. Like you're never not doing stuff. So like at a kind of a molecular level, you're always equally busy being alive. all right, we don't have to go there. But do you know what I
No,
mean?
yeah.
Like at that level, like you're never not doing stuff.
You're never not doing
so
something.
like, it's like,
yeah.
Is it in your head? Does it feel frantic? Or does it just feel like just like a flow?
Exactly. Like I think it's that thing, you know, when you've got a lot of things on and you write your list and you're like, I cannot picture a world in which all of this is done. And you can sort of either like work yourself up into a lather being like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then everything takes so much longer and the feeling of it is so uncomfortable. And for me, sometimes that results in me just doing nothing because I'm just paralyzed by the overwhelm of all of the things that I have to do, that I just go like zombie mode and just be like, fuck, I can't do anything. But if you're able to, and I'm saying this like it's easy, like obviously I don't know how to do it. I turn into a fucking mummy just walking around the house like, oh, give me some dogs to cuddle. I don't know what I'm doing. But if in those moments where you, for whatever reason you can find that sort of clarity to be like, you know what, I've done long lists of things before. It's fine. Like, and I can only work at a pace that is within the realms of my mortal body. So you just do one thing at a time on the list and eventually they're done. So I want to get better at that mindset wise, but also I think maybe making not better choices, but like seeing how else I can organize my days better and the distribution of work better. And also because I'm someone who gets like excited about hobbies, like maybe just be like chill on the hobbies a little bit, like maybe limit it to 2 or whatever, rather than like trying to do all of the things.
Yeah.
Don't know. Yeah, don't know what exactly that would look like, but I guess that's one of the things. Yeah,
I think the thing you're saying about busyness being obviously there are material cases. There are moments in time that are more busy, but like you're saying, I do think it is a mindset thing. Like I've noticed you can have 2 people with exactly the same to-do list, but the way they experience their day is completely different, and the way they feel as a result of that is really different. And I was thinking about it a lot this week in terms of like, I don't want to say the word goals because that's such a gross word, but I've been thinking about, I don't know, I'm feeling like it's just kind of gross and cheesy, and I'm like, I'm sick of goals. Fuck off with your goals. I don't care. I have no goals. My goal is to have 0 goals for this year. No, I don't know. It's so easy to get caught up in that, but I was like, okay, what do I want? Like, what do I want this life to be? Actually. And of course, not turning that into a to-do list, because a lot of these things I have very limited control over. But I also think last year was a hard year and I didn't give myself permission to want things that were more than one day away, basically. And so just starting to brainstorm what those things are and hold them lightly enough to be like, they're never going to be this thing, but that's the general direction in the map. Like there is a difference between north and south, and I might never end up at the North Pole, but at least I know I choose north over south or east over west or whatever. Yeah. And while I was thinking about that, it kind of occurred to me, and this is probably going to sound really obvious, but we get quite caught up in the name of the goal or the destination or like the thing that we want, but it's actually not about that thing. It's about a feeling. It's about how we imagine we would feel with that thing.
Yeah.
And actually that feeling is the compass. And the things can change over time, or you can get to places and realize that they didn't make you feel the way that you thought they were going to make you feel. But it's kind of a lot more helpful to know the feeling that you're looking for.
That's really, really interesting. And then so you sort of use that as your measure. You're like, am I feeling? But then feelings are so like, because you can't just be like happy. I want to be happy all the time.
I know.
You know what I mean? But I think it can be like, I remember saying, like I want my life to feel like I'm on holidays all the time. Now, obviously, there is like reality things that play into that. You're not going to because we have to have jobs and make money, and holidays are a special thing. But it's like something about that feeling of like, of being like hopeful and calm and light. And I always find on holidays I'm very reflective and I'm thinking about the things that I want and feel a bit more clear. So when I say like I want to feel like I'm on holidays all the time, I don't mean like sitting by the pool drinking a margarita and like not having to do anything, but there's something about that, that lightness, that space, that even if I could capture like a quarter of that in non-holiday time, that would be great.
Yeah. I think it is part of maturity is understanding. Like these are the big pictures that you paint, recognizing that it's an unachievable thing, but it's again that's just a direction.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I'm not going to feel like I'm drinking margaritas on the beach every day, but I'd sure as fuck rather head in that direction and miss that target than not have that hope at all and just be like, yeah, I'm totally cool with hating every moment of living in this air-conditioned fucking office, making more money for a bank that I don't give a fuck about to participate in the hopeful dying machinery of capitalism. Like,
I mean, you know.
It's like you're allowed to hope for one thing, recognizing that it's not going to be that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's a thing that creates the momentum.
Yeah,
totally. How was your Christmas?
It was great, actually.
Yeah?
It was really nice.
That's so good.
It was really, really lovely. We got back yesterday. We went to Queensland to visit the family of Tom, my partner.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 4 days of just staying in his mum's house and feeling so taken care of. It was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, it's such a new dynamic. Like I obviously was with my ex for 14 years, so his family were very much my family. So kind of meeting a whole new set of family is quite a strange and interesting thing.
Yeah.
And I lucked out. Like they're great. They're really
that's
good.
so good.
Yeah. So it was so you go back into that mode of like it's so rare to feel like a kid again, kind of like someone's like cooking supper for you and taking care of you, and it's someone else is putting up Christmas decorations. And you know, I love being an adult in a lot of ways at a lot of times, but it's also sometimes really necessary just to go. It was amazing. It was great.
That's so nice.
Yeah. It's still, Christmas is big feelings though. Like it makes me miss my family. It makes me feel like, but all at the same time, like good, and you can't isolate. It's like, it's not a positive or negative. It's just a time of amplified, like the good stuff is great and the people you miss, it's pronounced. And
that's it.
Yeah.
Making people, you know, that there's something like, it's the most wonderful time. People are like, no, it's just the most time. It is the most time of the year.
Yeah, that combined with it being the end of the year, combined with it, you're reflecting on your whole life and where it's going or where it's not going and what you're wanting to hold on to and let go of and all of that.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was gorgeous. What did you end up doing in the end?
So Christmas has been a weird one for me in the last 2 years because I feel really, really grateful in that most of my life and up until this point, Christmas has been pretty stress-free for me. Like when we were kids, because my parents moved to Melbourne the year before I was born. They were both Queenslanders, so all of our extended family were all in Queensland, so it was just the four of us in Melbourne, my mum and dad, my sister and I. And so like when we were little, we probably went up to Queensland a little bit more often, but that was really the only decision to be made. It was like, do we go to Queensland or not go to Queensland? That was it. When we go to Queensland, we'd sort of do different stuff, stay with different people. Sometimes if we were here, we'd sort of adopt whoever was around, or I think we went to some of family friends' places some years. Like it was always very like, there wasn't the set thing of like, this is exactly what we do every single year and we cannot deviate from this thing. In saying that, there are also, of course, like little traditions that we did have which are really nice to hold on to those things, but it was always pretty flexible and really chill. There's no like beef in our family. Everyone kind of likes each other. It was really, really nice. And same with when I met Dan and his family. They're all gorgeous. Again, like I was saying the other week, won the in-law lottery. They're amazing. So all of this to just preface the fact that it was odd for me to suddenly have not negative, but like to feel really emotional around Christmas. So so here's what's happened.
Okay,
basically.
yeah, I'm like, okay, all right, all the caveats are in place.
But I'm also like, I still, why I'm sort of pausing is I haven't identified what the actual problem is. I still am not entirely sure why I've been feeling the way that I'm feeling, and I've got a couple of theories, but who fucking knows? So last year, obviously we'd had COVID. So Dan and I had just bought our place. We bought it in July 2020, so like right before the first big lockdown in Melbourne happened. So we bought our place and then essentially no one got to see it for like a year, which sucked. But, you know, that's what it is. So last year, months before Christmas, I was like, I'd really love to host Christmas at our place. It's really exciting. First place that we've owned. No one's really got to see it.
Yeah.
Obviously, we haven't been able to see family much at all in the past 2 years because of COVID. So I was like, we'll just have like our immediate families. So like Dan's parents and siblings, my dad and his partner, and my sister and her partner who were based in Sydney. And everyone's like, yeah, great. That sounds amazing. This is, as I said, like months before Christmas. Then just before Christmas, maybe even like that week, well, a few things happened. So my sister and her partner couldn't come down because there was a new wave of COVID and he's got some health stuff that means he's particularly at risk and COVID was particularly scary for him. So disappointing, but also extremely reasonable. Like, look after your health, that's fine. Then like a few days before Christmas, Dan's family were like, oh yeah, so we'll be there at this time, but then we'll leave by 1 to go to the big family thing. And I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah, that's so like
what do you mean? Like we invited you over for Christmas and you were like, yeah, amazing, we'll be there. And then you're saying we'll be there for like an hour and then go to the other Christmas.
And then we'll go to real Christmas afterwards.
Yeah. And it absolutely blew my mind. And these are all like, I love these people. They're like kind, conscientious, lovely. So it wasn't like a fuck you thing. Like, and then trying to work it out with Dan afterwards is like, I think that's just because it's so ingrained, because this is the huge side of the family, the 10 aunties and uncles side. It's so ingrained that like that's what you do for Christmas that it wouldn't even have like entered into their mind that we were asking them to do this instead of going to that. Which, anyway, so then I felt really really let down and really upset by that. But I was like, okay, well, I guess like that's a thing to navigate, but they'll come over for a bit. That'll be fine. Then like on Christmas, a bunch of people got COVID. So Dan's mum got COVID, and because she'd babysat for our nephew, then they couldn't. Anyway, so it was this whole like thing that just tumbled and fell over. Plus, you know, put on top of that, like all of the disappointments of COVID era.
Yeah.
It was just like the last straw for me. So it ended up being just us and my dad and his partner. And I think Dan's dad came over like very briefly before he went to the like his family thing. So look, we made the most of it. It was fine. It just wasn't like, I think for me, there was something really important, like we're talking about the adult and child dynamic thing. There was something that was really important to me about hosting and feeling like the adult in the grown-up house that we bought on our own.
Yeah.
So again, it's like everything, you know, Christmas is not about Christmas, money is not about money, sex is not about sex. Like there's something else. There's some underlying thing that this is just uncovering. And no one's doing anything wrong. It's just just really disappointing and upsetting. So I'd sort of carried that forth into this year, and then basically looking down the barrel of the same thing happening again. My sister and her partner just took fucking ages to let us know if they were coming or not. So then I'm like, it's just going to be Dad and Jan. That's fine. Maybe we can do something a bit different. There was a series of disasters with like food orders not going through, and then I'm like, fine, fuck it. This is just the way that it's going to be. It'll be us and Dad and Jan. It'll be lovely. And then on Christmas Day, get a phone call.
No.
Poor Jan has COVID.
No. Oh my God.
Obviously, much worse for her.
I know.
Us,
like,
but it was just,
we all know, but also, fuck, I know that this has just been like,
it's just been so shit. But by this stage, it's sort of like it's been this comedy of errors. So I'm like, of course, why not?
Of course, that would have crossed the threshold of like, you're like, well, all right.
Yeah. Then
burn it all down.
Puked on me in the car on the way back from my dad's house. Pickle's our dog, just to clarify. Wasn't like Uncle Pickle, the drunk. Anyway, so look, there's a sort of like long and winding story that's probably not particularly interesting, and it's also not like, I completely understand these are not massive things individually that have happened, but what's been interesting is like why am I so upset?
Yeah.
And I think I've mentioned this to you before, like I was feeling angry at various people throughout this like 2-year Christmas process, but then realizing that like my anger would shift day to day. So I'm like, oh, it's got nothing to do with anyone. It's just me. Like when the focus of your anger and upset is changing that frequently depending on like who you spoke to. I was like, oh, and also knowing like actually no one's really done anything wrong, at the very worst, like miscommunication maybe. But so then I'm like, okay, so if I'm angry or upset, but it's not at anyone, what is it that's causing that? And I think it's tied into this like not feeling like you're ever going to have your own like traditions or story or whatever. Like I think looking down the barrel of like 99.9% probably not going to have kids, then it's like, okay, well, what does like this look like for the rest of time then? Like if we couldn't have like one, like I'm not asking to take it on forever. I just wanted one.
Yeah.
I just wanted one Christmas.
Like
I just wanted a turn.
Christmas,
yeah. And I think that's maybe where it's coming from. It's like, oh, like so we just don't get our turn because we're not going to have kids. No one has said this, but I feel like that's what it's bringing up for me.
Like I totally get that.
Yeah.
There's so much that like also just to acknowledge. I think what you said is really profound about recognizing, firstly, the starting point of like when the response feels disproportionate to the impetus, that something else is happening. And I remember hearing someone describing it as like time travel, because if you are being triggered by like the current events are causing, something is happening inside you that's pulling from an archive that is likening this to something else that hurt a lot, basically. And your response is trying to protect you from feeling a version of that pain again. But what it really means is like you've time traveled back to the last time something made you feel like this. Is kind of the theory. But like just, I mean, that's like a whole thing to discuss. But more the point being like first the recognition that the response and the thing seem mismatched. But then what you said about how you notice that the object, that feeling always feels like it's coming from a person, like they said this or they did this, but then recognizing that object is shifting all the time. I think that's a really useful way of being able to identify that it's not the case. Because also sometimes people fuck up, like sometimes people are total dicks and it is on them, right? Yeah. But it can be really hard when you're feeling heightened to tell the difference. Like I'm speaking personally, like I find it very difficult to know when it's my shit or when it's someone else crossing a boundary. And I feel like what you just said there now I'm archiving this in my brain. I think it's fucking profound. Like, yeah, if the person keeps shifting, it's not the person, then you know that it is inside, which is kind of worse because
it's like, well,
fuck.
Great. What the fuck do I do with that now? I was hoping that someone else had done something wrong and I could blame them.
Exactly. Can someone else be the bad guy for a change?
But no, still me, it turns out.
I'm still the asshole.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because obviously it feels incredibly real at the moment. Like when you feel upset or anger towards someone, there's no part of you in that moment while you're heightened that goes, actually, is this maybe me? Like that's, for me at least, I can only do that in hindsight. And that hindsight might take an hour or it might take 3 weeks or it might take 6 months. I don't know. But because this was happening in such quick succession, feeling it sort of move around like that, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, this is definitely a me thing.
Yeah. You're like, everything else is moving and I'm the thing. You suddenly...
I'm the common denominator.
You're like triangulated. Yeah. Like, oh, I am literally at the eye of this hurricane.
Yeah.
But also, okay, saying that, and I think that it is important to recognize all of those things. I do, like, it doesn't have to be one or the other. Like, they also are... that is not to invalidate the other stuff, because I also get it. Like it is really shit getting to a point in your 30s where people are married or having kids or doing things that feel like they are recognized or have a certain amount of social capital more than other things.
Yeah.
And some people are really good at that. Like we've got a group of friends who we're having this big New Year party, and we were kind of, this is going to sound strange, but it's beautiful and really fun. But like a group of us, a group of the girls were doing like a little dance where we were like, oh, we're going to just have a few drinks and then do a dance routine all together with highlights of the year, right? So
can I tell you what I'm picturing right now? The scene in Mean Girls where they do Jingle Bell Rock. Is that what it is?
I mean, I'm going to say yes. It's so fun. And I remember I just met this group of friends this time last year, and I remember the girls doing it, and it was, obviously I wasn't part of it. I didn't know anyone at that stage, and it was so fucking cute and hilarious, and it was it was just chaos. No one knew what was happening. It was, when I say it is a choreographed dance piece in the loosest sense of the word choreographed. It's just a group of adult women like dancing and acting and doing, it's like kids.
This is so fun.
It was honestly, I remember watching them and just being like, I love these humans already. And I hadn't even met them. So this year I'm part of it, and we were kind of reflecting on the year and choosing out moments from everyone in the friendship group of like these cool things that had happened and what to celebrate, and just, doing a little review of the year. And part of that, obviously, there were like quite a few people that got engaged, and it was celebrating that and like all the proposals and stuff. And then I just kind of noticed one girl like kind of went quiet, and she was thinking about it, and then she like kind of whispered to someone else in the group. I'm saying girl, woman, these are all grown women. And then they were kind of like, oh yeah, and also this person studied and Alice got a degree, and like kind of just that. I thought it was so beautiful, that recognition of that matters as well, but it's not the default. And I don't mean in that group at all. I just mean generally, it is. There are things that seem to hold more social capital, and the kid one is a huge one. And like, if you're still a family, right? Like you don't have kids, but it doesn't make you not a family.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that I don't know, I find it really hurtful when people say that. Like, oh, you don't want to like start a family or have a family. And I understand what the question they're asking is, do you have children? Or they say, do you have a family? Well, yeah, I've got a fucking family, whether I have kids or not. Like I find that question personally super hurtful. I know that it's not meant in that way, but obviously words are powerful, and the messages that reiterates to you and just like has that like even if you're 100% sure that this is the decision for you and that it's right, doesn't mean that things like that don't kind of make you feel a little bit, hurt, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's wonderful to have those things with friends, and I feel very lucky as well to have a beautiful group of friends and range of friends that are at different stages in life. But I think it's it's never quite the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much there.
I know. Sorry. Now, solve for me, please.
It's also good to talk. Yeah, I don't know. It's really nice to speak about it as well. Because
yeah, I think it's probably one of those things too. Like, obviously, if there's one thing that I've like learnt about life as I've gone on, is that like nothing ever turns out the way that you think it will, which can be amazing and can be terrible and can be like everything in between. But definitely, like, we don't know shit, and things that we assume at any point in our life are going to be like that forever very, very rarely are. And I think this probably goes into that as well, you know, and like family feeling different, you know, like not knowing that my mum would pass away or my sister and I wouldn't live in the same state, like all of those sorts of things, like the Christmas that you have as a little kid and the Christmases you sort of imagine yourself having as an adult, which, and who knows with what fucking like butterfly wing flap things might have changed in any direction. But I don't know. I'm rambling now and I feel like I'm going to cry. I just have lots of feelings and I don't know why.
What you were saying is I was listening to this on the plane yesterday and I did have just a quiet cry and no one noticed and it was fine. And I just was feeling all the things. But I was listening to this. It was a talk. It was a Buddhist monk and teacher talking, and he was speaking about this as rope burn. And he's like, the fundamental reality of everything is that everything is changing. And he said a few things actually that blew my mind. And it was one of those things where none of this was new content. Like none of actually anything that he said is a thing that I haven't thought about before or read about before or discussed before. But sometimes you just need it said in that way on that moment in that day by that person.
Yeah.
And the way he articulated it was, he's like, there is nothing that exists materially that is not in some state of change. If you even look at your glass of water, if you look deep enough into that glass, the atoms are moving, the molecules are moving, like everything is changing. And that is just a truth. But the space where things don't change is the conceptual space. So my idea of glass doesn't change. My idea of what a tree is or what tea is or what water is or any of these things is like concept, which is really, I don't know if I can, listen, it is above my pay grade to explain all of this, but like that idea of, I've always thought of it in the other way. I'm like, material is solid, like the world is solid, right? Ideas can change all the time, but like he completely flipped that. And he's like, no, the material world is always changing all the time, unavoidably. Concepts don't. And he's like, we hold on to ideas in a reality that is one of change. And it's like holding onto a rope that is moving, and the tighter you hold that rope, the more rope burn you'll get. And it just like that idea, and he said it, and I'm like, I think a lot of the big stuff I've been feeling lately, and a lot of it's just been like a really weird time, and nothing is wrong. I'm so happy in so many ways, but also have this like weird feeling on my insides, and it's rope burn. Like it is rope burn. It's like I just want one thing to stay the same, right? And it's like I can keep crying about the impossibility of that or start making sense of that, and it's so much fucking easier said than done. But like just I don't know.
Oh man, I'm so I'll have to get you to send me that podcast. That makes so much sense to me. Even like I know that like language I've used previously to describe like feel that uncomfortability you feel with like identity change or that sort of stuff is like feeling untethered. Yeah. So then it makes sense that you like grab the rope with all of your might and try to hold onto that. Because like I just want to be fucking tethered to something, whether that's like how you thought your 30s would be or Christmas would be or your family would be or any of those sort of things are actually much harder to let go of when, you know, other parts out of your control become untethered.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Relationships, I think it's realizing, I think I thought that was what marriage would be like you would have a thing that always was there and always felt safe. But of course things change and that's a good thing as well.
Yeah.
But it's like after that, trying not to forget that lesson, because it's like you can't just be like, nope, well, that one, that didn't work because that was a special case, but now let's go find the happily ever after. And you're like, no, the lesson wasn't that. But it's, I don't know, like it's a hard thing. I think it's really human. The other way he described it was, he was like, it's like if you go and sit in the cinema and watch a movie for 2 hours, you can be immersed in that and it can make you feel stuff. Like you feel things in response to what you see. And those feelings are real. But like, are those people real? Are those characters real? Are those stories real? Like they're happening. But also if you look close enough, it's like moving light and color. And both of those things are true at the same time. And I think, I don't know, it's like things change. Everything's changing. You can't hold on to stuff. That is true. But also like we are humans, we live in our lives, we live in our stories, and we do want to make sense of things. And that's also okay to want to hold stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, like it depends on like sort of how resilient you are feeling at any given time. Because if you feel like your core self is pretty solid, sometimes it can be, and sometimes it can be like sand. Just disappearing through my fingertips. But sometimes it does feel really solid. And in that stage, you're like, actually, I don't need to hold on so tightly to these things, because you feel, you know, self-tethered. Like you feel fine, or maybe you feel like, I don't know, like you have enough weight to keep you on the ground yourself, and those things are not as important. And so it may not even be that there's stages of more or less change. It might just be the times where you are feeling more resilient in dealing with it. Or, I don't know. I also think when things have been like, you go through these sort of cycles of big periods of change, and then maybe a period of stability and a period of change. And when you're in the period of stability, you almost can't remember what that untethered changing period feels like. You sort of can, and then you feel like I'll know this when I see it next time, but you don't. You're like, well, fuck, now I'm at the start again. I thought I'd done this bit already, and I'm just starting to realize, like you're never cooked. You ain't in the process of baking for your entire life. You're not like, oh, I'm done now.
So when you said that you are never cooked, and I was like, no, I'm definitely cooked. But yes, metaphorically.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I suppose it's that
you're never
thing.
complete.
Yes. Yeah. But exactly. When you're feeling strong, it's so easy. When you're feeling like yourself, it is so easy to know how you think you will handle the shit day when it comes. But the thing is, like, the shit day, when it hits you and you're not there, it is incredibly difficult to access those same tools and find ways to kind of self-regulate to the point at which you then can access the tools that you have with you. You do always have, it's not that they're not there.
Yeah.
But it can be very hard to see them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on those days, you absolutely should not drink more than one coffee.
I'm not sure how I've gone. I was like playing a very, very dangerous game of caffeine roulette, caffeine chicken, if you will, where it was just me and the coffee staring at each other, going head to head. I'm like, I don't fucking know. I don't know who's going to win this game.
I've never won once before, but maybe today's the day. Maybe putting more cortisol and stress hormones into my already anxious ecosystem.
But it's like, no, man, but I'm going to find the perfect balance. Yes. I'm going to find the perfect balance. Like they're doing like maths equations in my head and shit. Like, it's there. I can feel it. Actually, but because I was so tired, I'm like, I don't feel like there's any amount of caffeine that can like even touch the sides this morning. But you can definitely get the like caffeine craziest bit and still feel really tired.
Yeah. You can cross. You can cross into that hyper stimulated, but not okay. Like that for me is when I get manic.
Yeah.
Like my body is super stimulated and my mind is like not equipped to drive the machinery.
I didn't know this is what we were doing.
What? It's happening.
Oh dear. So what happens first week of Jan for Alice Edie? Have you got plans? Have you got something? I don't know. Have you got any traditions about how you start a year as well?
Start the year? No, I'll be at a New Year's party with friends. We will have done the aforementioned dance.
I'm so excited to hear about this.
So excited. Like, I'm really, really excited for New Year. It's a really good crew of people. We were going to head to the beach and camp and then just have a party on the beach, but it looks like, I think someone's headed there a bit earlier and it's packed out. So we're just finding a field somewhere and we're going to set up a bunch of tents and have a little mini festival. And then, so probably the first few days of the New Year will be spent recovering.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really excited for establishing a sense of business as usual. Because the last with studying and stuff, I just don't have any sense of regularity, and I'm actually just excited. Like, it's been an amazing coming off the back of studying into holidays, into festive season, and work was a bit chaotic, kind of trying to make some holiday money. But I want to know what a regular Wednesday looks like, and to start setting up some structures to hold that, whether it's finding studio space to rent, to work in a co-working space again, or setting that up again.
Yeah, that's very true. I was thinking about that as well in terms of the looking forward and what we might like out of this year. And I think we've sort of forgotten as well that we've been through this massive fucking traumatic thing like very recently. And last year was the first year that things were sort of normal-ish. But also I think there's got to be, like, remember at the end of 2020 and we were like, thank God 2021's here. You know, so I think people had been burnt by that a little bit, that it was almost, for me anyway, like going through the year just sort of like, oh, well, I better like go out and do these things and do this stuff because at any moment this could be taken away, which I think was just sort of like a low hum of a theme sort of throughout the year. And now things do feel a little bit more stable. I'm also, looking forward to finding some new rhythms with things that feel sustainable, at least for the time being, which would be nice.
Yeah. And the space, doing meaningful work, but creating space around it.
Yeah.
Like, I want to read. Remember reading?
No, not really. I'm not even sure that I can read anymore. It's been that long since I've read a book.
I just wish someone would make an Instagram account which is just sequential tiles of a book, and then I could just scroll on Instagram and trick myself into reading something.
Oh my God, Alice Edie, you might have just hit on the new big thing.
I'm sure it exists somewhere. Just if someone could turn War and Peace into 5,000 Instagram stories.
I mean, if they've got pictures, even better. No, that's the thing I think of as well. Like, I love the idea of like sitting in a comfortable chair reading a book, or like lying down outside reading a book. But I think it's the same way, like, I love the idea of like having whiskey and a cigar. Like, I do not like either of those things, but it's like the romantic thing of like, imagine if I was a person who did like having whiskey and a cigar, or imagine I was the kind of person who did actually find it relaxing to sit down or get all cozy with a book rather than read half a page and then have my brain go, you should think of all of the things that you're not meant to be thinking of right now. What are you doing tomorrow? Do you have enough food in the fridge? What's for dinner?
Balls.
Exactly.
I don't know, hypothetically.
But I think maybe like, and where's the line between being like, I just have to accept that I'm not that person, and there are other issues. I mean, okay, I can let go of like the whiskey and cigar things. That's probably not going to help me, and that's just sort of like that romantic like feeling of it. But with other things, it's like, maybe I need to work on being able to like focus.
This
maybe
is the
that
thing,
would be
right?
valuable.
Because you also do get to choose this stuff, where this time a year ago I was not a camper at all, like not into that. the thought of going camping for New Year's, super stressful, didn't understand why anyone would want to do that, etc. And a year later, I can honestly say it's like a thing that brings me joy. Like to me, unrelated to anyone else, not needing to do it for anyone, right? But like, so it is that thing where like we get to change, but also sometimes you get to not like stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And where's the what's the line?
When's it the discomfort and when is it just like you can't be fucked? And also who cares? You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's right. I definitely do think that there would be value because I wasn't always this way either. Like it's definitely like a phone, you know, our phone's like little fucking pokies machines and it just like, gratify me. Like I'm usually doing two things at once. Like I've got at least two inputs at once. Like I'll be working and listening to a podcast or I'll be and this one is fucking terrible. And I know that everyone does it, but like watching TV or a movie and fucking around on my phone. It's like just watch the thing.
It's so bad. Like,
or if you really have to,
you,
sit around and fuck up. What's the fucking word I'm looking for? Fuck around on your phone. I was so close, Alice. We've done it. I made it this far. And somehow was able to continue stringing sentences together, but it's gone.
Anyone who's listened this far is on your side.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, team. I appreciate it. I also said to Alice when she arrived today, we got to start recording like straight away because I think I might only have one coherent hour in me.
And that was 1 hour and 1 minute ago.
Anyway, yes, that thing with the being super distracted and needing multiple things on, I definitely feel like that's not a good thing for me and that I need to do some work in that department, which again, it's not like I'm going to be a whole new person in 2023. It's like maybe just learn to do one thing at a time for an hour a day. That might be my first goal. I don't know.
Baby steps or just as opposed to the full overhaul of like, just I'm going to not be a cunt next year.
Yeah.
The old me is out.
Yeah. New year, new me. No, it's just new year, old me. Better stationery.
It's like new pants. I'm going to get some new pants.
Oh, yeah. That's great. Well, you've got new hair. That's fun. That's a very fun thing to do going into a new year.
I just said thanks for your statement. You're like, you got new hair. Thanks.
But it was meant as a compliment.
That's the energy I'm going to take into 2023. Just credit
girl.
Where none is earned.
How are you? Oh my God, thank you.
Oh my God, thanks. I'm Alice. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good move though. That's a fun thing to go into a new year with.
Wait, which one? All right. Yes.
Yeah.
At the hairdresser, I saw this was like what I would call a very minor celebrity sighting, but it was.
Is it you?
It was Chantal Otten. Do you know her? She's a sex artist. Yeah, the sex. She got her hair done at the same time at the same place, and it was such a weird moment because like 98.75% of me didn't give a fuck, but there was like a more than slightly over 1% of me that was like, oh, like it's so weird when you see someone in real life who you've only seen inside your phone. Yeah. And they feel just familiar enough to be a friend that it feels weird to not say hi.
That is the funny thing, I think, when you, in that like little moment, when you see someone you recognize, between when you recognize them and when your brain works out who they are, you go to say hello to them because in your mind you're like, I recognize them. They're my friend.
Exactly. Your face is familiar enough that I feel comfortable around you. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, oh, no, you don't know me.
Yeah. And especially when someone's at the hairdresser, I was like, oh, God, that would be like the last moment anyone wants to deal with like a random stranger, which is weird because I talk to strangers all the fucking time. No holds barred. I'd be like, I love your shoes. I love your top. A cute dog.
I think hairdresser on the way out.
Oh,
once the
bib of shame is
the
removed.
bib of shame. Yeah, perfect way of describing it. Once the bib of shame has been removed and they just look fabulous.
Yeah, that is true.
They do the great reveal. Then you can be like, oh my God, you look amazing. Also, fan of your work, whatever. I think that would be the only appropriate time to approach someone at the hairdresser when they're like they're like looking like a wet dog with hair in foils and there's got to be another option to the bib of shame,
It is
right?
so brutal. Like there's nothing, you can walk in feeling fine. I'll be like, oh yeah, I mean my hair's a bit shit. Like on your way into the hairdresser, you haven't done anything, so you're not looking your best self. But I'll be like, it's fine.
Yeah,
I go out like this all the time. Yeah. It's fine. This is
I know what I look like. This is fine.
Exactly. People know and love me like this. It's okay. And then they put that fucking bib on. You're like, oh no.
Oh, why?
Oh, it's real bad.
It is the most confronting of things. But then maybe it's so. I mean, I'm sure it's to protect your clothes, but how good is the reveal? Because it's the contrast between like, I am a piece of shit. Where is my neck? Have I always looked like this? Why hasn't anyone told me?
Why is my neck bigger than my head?
And then you get the grand reveal at the end where you've got your new hair, but then also, oh my God, my neck's back.
That's so true. No, that's so true because they have other ways of stopping.
Is this a fucking rort? Have we just uncovered big hairdressings?
It goes secret? All the way to the top, people.
We're being had.
That's a fucking great, well, thanks for tuning in. We blew this wide open.
Yeah, look, hey, I feel like that's making a discovery like this is the best way to end.
What
also,
we're all about.
As previously mentioned, my time is up.
You're like, I'm done. Get the fuck out of my house.
On the stringing sentences together, I can just feel it like again, like sand slipping through my fingers. I'm like, oh no.
Okay, but just before we do, to say, I really feel so much fucking better than I did when I arrived an hour and a half ago. Thank you. Like I was like, I know it was that thing of when you're in that space, you can't imagine not feeling that way. And I was like, I just feel like fine, but just slightly bleak and hopeless.
Yeah.
And I saw the same thing in your eyes and like, it's just amazing to me what humans can do for each other and friendship and thank you.
Yeah.
I'm like this.
Thank you.
It's going to be okay, right?
It's going to be okay. Me do this. It's going to be okay. It's going to be fine.
Thanks for forcing me to do that thing.
But it is just, it's such a good reminder. And I think as well with all of there's social things and people have to look after themselves the way that they need to, but you almost like, well, I do anyway, because of this feeling of exhaustion, my natural reaction is to want to retreat and do less, but then, forgetting that how much this just like having a good like vent and chat and laugh with someone that you love actually makes you feel so much better. And maybe don't cancel all your plans all the time because the ones that do fill your cup are invaluable.
It's like it's the friendship equivalent of going for a run where you're like, it's the best choice you ever made.
That's it. Well, and I was even saying that to myself this morning. It's like I've never done this. This is something that gives me energy, that gives me life. It always does. So which is slightly different from going for a run, I think. I mean, even though like the same that like you don't regret it, some runs just are heaps harder than others. Whereas this is always joyful, I think. Yeah, anyway,
me too.
Thank you for making me go for the run. I love you.
Yeah, I love you too. Thank you. And thanks for everyone who's come for this wild run with us and who's listened for the last nearly year. It's so fucking cool, you guys. We don't take it for granted. We have a little magical app that shows us the numbers and it's way more it's way more than our actual friends that we know.
Yeah,
basically,
I definitely don't know that many.
Yeah, and it's moving and amazing and so fucking cool. Thank you.
It is so cool. And hey, Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah.
Woo! Looking forward to more exciting pod stuff in 2023. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah. Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Imposter Syndrome Club. Please follow us wherever you find your podcasts. And if you're feeling extra kind, rate and review. Or if you got any insights or value from this, share with a friend.
You can also find us on Instagram @ImposterPod or online at impostersyndromeclub.com.